Hello, my name is Jeff Lovejoy, and I'm a certified business coach with Action Coach. And today I'm speaking with Jeremy Dickman, owner of Primm Roofing. Morning, Jeremy.
Morning, Jeff. Thanks. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for taking a couple moments and sharing with the audience the success you've had in growing Primm. Tell me a little bit about the company. It's a roofing company, but tell me, is it specialized in commercial or residential, and what your plans are for growth?
Yeah, so we're commercial roofers, but the long and short of it is we started out 2 years ago with one branch. That was an acquisition, and we acquired a second branch, Apollo, in Roswell. So presently, we're kind of branding ourselves as Apollo Primm as we kind of bring these two brands together and these two branches together in North Atlanta and then South Atlanta. We're 100% commercial roofing. The more difficult the project is, the more we like it. We try to be experts in the field, so we try not to just put on the roof. We try to be more than that. We try to look at the building holistically and really try to take care of the customer's assets. So whether it be physical assets or the cash assets or whatever, we're trying to just be good stewards of that, of those assets, so that over the long term, we become the roofer of choice for these people.
Excellent, excellent. So, do you find that a lot of your competitors have that same interest in mind, or does that differentiate you to being more kind of that consultative? I want to make sure it's the right roof, not just any roof kind of thing.
Well, we don't want to believe our own nonsense, so to speak, but we definitely think that is a point of differentiation for us. There are a lot of good roofers out there. So if you know exactly what you want and that's what you want and you want it at a certain price, we may not be your guy. If you don't know what you want, or you've got complicated situations, or things are important to you beyond the roof itself, let's say safety is important, tenant interactions, the quality of the installation, the aesthetics, those kinds of things. That's really, I think, where we shine. So I do think it's a differentiator, although we're the first to admit, we're not for everybody. So we really want to carve out that niche and find those customers that will be most responsive to what we have to offer. And then that's been a growing pains for sure, but we get a little bit better every day.
Excellent. So is that you mentioned niche? Is that niche by industry? Is it by size of building? Is it by type of building? How do you define that niche, or what's the target market?
Well, a couple years ago, I would have said, it's the type of building, it's the property. Maybe a year ago, I would have said it's the type of customer. I think now, really, we're finding that it's both. And so, for instance, we can do work for a GC, but only do a portion of their work. But that's our sweet spot with that GC. We've got to recognize that certain things that they do are really good for us. So it doesn't mean we're going to do all of their projects, and it doesn't mean we should be, we should aspire to that with them or internally as well. Same thing with property managers or owners. There's a subset of most people's portfolios that fits us really well. There are certain owners that probably will never, be a good fit for us. But generally speaking, it's the sweet spot of what the customer wants, and there's a lot of people in the value chain. So it's the owner, the property manager, the tenants, and the building. And when all those four things come together for us, as long as we recognize those four influencers, we do extremely well in closing the sale. When any of those things are out of sync, if we don't recognize it, we struggle.
Got it. And is the sweet spot Metro Atlanta? Is it Georgia? Is it Southeast? Is it east of the Mississippi? Is it U.S.? Where's the sweet spot?
One of the things we do a little differently is we want to do as much of the labor in-house, with our employees, not subcontract the labor as possible. So we're not, we still subcontract some labor. We're not saying we don't, but because we want those people working for us as employees, we want to stay within a radius that's that doesn't tax our people and their family lives. So generally speaking, we're within 2 to 3 hours of Atlanta with the two branches we have. But for certain customers, for certain situations, we will travel. But that starts to get outside our comfort zone, and we make that known up front with the owner, or the customer. But it's not something we can't handle. It's just not a preference for us.
Got it. Thank you. So how long have you been in business?
Oh, as probably since 1987 when I started mowing grass. But the as a roofing owner, we purchased RE Primm and Company, which is Primm Roofing, in 2016, December of 2016. So basically 2017, and then we acquired Apollo Roofing Company in July of last year. So, it's been a whirlwind of growth and a whirlwind of experience in the roofing business. But I think I've always had kind of that entrepreneurial spirit from an early age. I come from a long line of entrepreneurs, from a great grandfather who was a general contractor to my father, who ran a contracting company of sorts in St. Louis. So, it's, but I am new to being the CEO, president of an operation. That's for sure.
Yeah, but it's in the blood. It's in the blood, I guess, huh? That the
Yeah.
contractor.
Contractor mentality.
So thanks for that. Yeah, that's what it is. So what's been the big impact from, or has there been a big impact from this whole pandemic thing that's going around?
Well, for us, it's been nothing but opportunity. It has been a big blessing in disguise. Roofing has been deemed an essential business, which I agree. That it's a very essential part. It's part of one of Maslow's 5 needs or whatever. It's shelter,
Right.
it's security, it's everything people need. But what it's really also done is it's in a good way, it's kind of concentrated power and decision making. To me, we had 2 branches and we were still trying to pull them together. Well, this was an opportunity to kind of take charge. Nobody really bucked the old ways of doing things. Everybody was kind of open to change, open to technology. We went quickly to Teams, Microsoft Teams. We went quickly to remote. We put some policies in place early March, before the day or two before we saw this coming, which is not soon enough. But so we started prepping early on. We put some business continuity plans in place if I should be going a ventilator or whatever. So all that stuff has been great. My team kind of coalesced around the vision, and it was there, and it would have eventually happened, but this really kind of forced, I would say, the hand in a lot of ways, and it's made us a lot stronger as a team. Now, there are people and there are situations that were bad, there's no question, but better for them to get off the train now than to hang around for 5 years and us eventually figure out they're not the right fit. But it's been generally very, very good. We've grown the employee base. We haven't laid anybody off. We've got more backlog already this year than we had the entirety of last year. So, and that's not because of COVID, but I mean, we were already in that trajectory, but we've just done, we've maintained the momentum is what I would say.
It sounds like, and it sounds like a lot of the opportunities, if that's the right word, that have been presented, well, maybe, let me rephrase it. The pandemic has given you time to kind of look internal to the business and get things in place and make sure that people are on board with those changes that you're putting in place.
Yeah, absolutely. We were going virtual. We were going towards the web, with all of our software solutions. and we were already in the throes of an ERP implementation. We had made a selection. We were moving forward. We didn't stop. We accelerated that timeline because of COVID, because we saw the opportunity to listen, well, we might actually have a little bit of downtime here, so let's take advantage of that. And so, we're getting everything on the same systems. Everything we're moving in the direction of virtual tablets, phones, all that kind of stuff that you can pick up your computer and phone and work from Hawaii. We're already headed in that direction. This just accelerated a lot of that for us. Our service platform is all web-based. Our ERP will be all web-based. Our CRM system, which we use Zoho, we were developing it, and we're still developing it. We're going to be developing it for probably forever. But it's just timing is, everything sometimes, and it just all these things just kind of hit. We were pushing in that direction, and this I think it showed a lot of people internally that we were on. Some people may have said, that's tech prep, don't worry about it. But I think it showed them that we were on a leading edge and we were prepared for these types of events, even if we didn't know these events were coming. And so I think that's one of my most important roles here, is to make sure that we are looking outward 5 to 10 years and prepared for these black swan events. I mean, you can never be prepared, but if you have enough of the right things in place, you can recombine them and redeploy quickly to do almost anything.
Yeah, excellent. So what are there a couple learnings that really stand out to you that you're taking away from the whole situation that arose with the pandemic?
Yeah, we need a better, and we knew this, but we needed a better safety plan. We're safe. We have very few accidents, if any. But we didn't, because we're a small enterprise. I mean, we're 50 people, 12 million revenue. But we didn't have a safety manager. We didn't have a safety book, that's 100 pages long. Right. So I think this is, and I tell everybody, don't worry about COVID. Don't worry about COVID. Worry about the underlying plan we need. So what's the next communicable disease, right? What's the next issue where we need to be distant or wear masks or whatever? We need a policy that's in place that'll handle 80% of that.
Got it.
And so that was lacking from ours, and I think probably most construction companies. And so it's kind of like, okay, whether it's pre-COVID, post-COVID, 20 years from now, 10 years in the past, we should have had a hand washing policy. We should have had a return to work policy. We should have had, some of those things in place. And I think we'll have that going forward. The other thing is, it's put a pretty bright light on, is the need to sensitively communicate with customers about this issue. It's become a political issue, unfortunately.
Right.
And so we weren't insensitive to that, but it kind of doubled us down on being sensitive to those kinds of things, so that we had an internal communication and a way to communicate what we were doing and why we were doing it, and it was to keep them safe. The customers. It's not because we believe one thing or believe another thing. It was simply, hey, this is what's recommended to keep your employees safe. That's what we're trying to do. And we were kind of late to the game on that communication piece.
Got it. So it doesn't sound like, you hear a lot about pivoting. I mean, that's such an overused word these days, but did you have to do any pivoting in your business, or was the trajectory little impacted by the pandemic?
So pivoting to me suggests I didn't have the tools that I needed, and I had to go get tools and kind of redirect. I think we had a lot of the tools at our disposal. We just had to kind of reorganize those tools to keep us going forward. So, pivot or not pivot, I don't know. I don't feel like we changed our trajectory at all. With the vision, the substance, I think
Right.
Jeff talked about that. I think that is so important to the trajectory that we've always been on that trajectory. So it's not about pivoting from that. It's about making sure we're using the resources we have at our disposal to stay in that,
Yep.
that vision band, I guess.
Excellent. Excellent. All right. So, it's said that wise people learn from their mistakes, and people that aren't quite so wise don't take those lessons home. Any lessons that you've learned from mistakes, and maybe you've already highlighted some of those, that arose through the last 3 months?
I think the biggest issue we face is, we have a diverse workforce here, and there's Spanish speaking, there's English speaking, we have black, white, Hispanic, gay, whatever. And I think the biggest issue is we didn't do a good job of always pushing the vision top down and letting stuff come back up. So the internal guys were very quick to adapt to the change. The external field guys who are critical to the business, but they're not here as much, didn't adapt as quickly. So, the frontline worker is the business. I mean, we can't do it without them.
Right.
And so I think we should have had more often and consistent communication with them from the beginning, because that's really the people that were at highest risk, because they're on the field. They're
Right.
probably the most scared because they don't, they're
Right.
not as educated. Right. And so that was probably the biggest thing. And we're working towards that. But that comes from the safety plan. That comes from all those kinds of little communication things. But I've been so focused on growth and we're still in what I consider startup mode. And so I've still been so focused on growth and so focused on getting all these pieces in place so that we can continue on the trajectory, that I've neglected some of that internal communication. So I've done, and now I do weekly emails to everyone, company-wide, to try to let them know, I do one that's COVID related, and I do one that's company related. And so the COVID and the company, they don't overlap. And I think that was something I read but it's been a great idea, because you don't want to focus on COVID. It's just an issue out there among many issues.
Right.
But what I really want to focus on is where we're headed as a business. Not just the pandemic, but the protests and the riots and what have you. That has made a big difference in my thinking going forward too. We really appreciate diversity. What am I doing as a privileged white owner to make sure that, my people have educational opportunities, that they have opportunities to do different things, they have access to capital if they want to go do something. I mean, really trying to be more of a mentor to some of these folks, really understand what they want to do. And it's going to be, I can't do it overnight, but you got to always be thinking about that. And it's an industry-wide problem. It's not a Primm problem. Right. But we want to do our part, and we can't do that without communication, and we can't do that with being open and understanding of the diversity that's very good for us, but it also can tear you apart.
Yeah, got it. I don't know if you've seen, there's a video out from Emmanuel ACHO, Ochoa.
Okay, no. Yeah.
I'll send you the link, but it's he's a black man, and the whole focus is answering questions that white folks ask. So the idea is he's giving background information on why these issues are seeing the issues through the eyes of a black man versus a white man. So it's great for that whole kind of opening up, and it's eye-opening in terms of, oh, I get it. I didn't realize, I hadn't seen the issue from that side, but I get it.
And
Well,
that's very
I'll
important.
I'll send you a link, and you might be able to use that with your teams.
But one of you talked about wisdom, Jeff, and just real quick. I mean, I don't know that I have much wisdom, but the
Well,
the failure thing I think is a big deal, because I came from cultures corporately where failure was fairly unacceptable. They may have said it was acceptable, but where the rubber meets the road, it was not acceptable. Here, failure is, if you're not failing, you're not trying. and so,
absolutely. Good for you.
and so when the pandemic came, people weren't hopefully necessarily afraid of making mistakes. And so we were able to try things quickly and get through some, any issues that did arise and move forward.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the wisdom there too, is if your culture is not flexible and adaptable now, it's only going to be made worse when crisis happens.
Yeah, got it. All right. So, two last questions.
Sure.
One being, what inspires you today? Is there when you look for inspiration, where do you go? What do you think about?
So that's a very difficult question. I mean, I think I'm inspired that, at least my view of us in the industry, is that we're doing something that I think 15 years from now, people are going to look back and say, whoa, how'd those guys do that? How'd they pull that off? So I'm inspired by this relatively unique journey in a very traditional old industry. This isn't high tech.
Right.
And when you say, well, who do you look to? I mean, I really try to look to visionary leaders, and that's who I try to read about, to understand how they dealt with issues. I've been reading, not because of the racial issues, but because just it's very interesting to me. I've been reading a lot about Abraham Lincoln. Believe it or not, Walt Disney is a very visionary guy, totally different industry, but there are parallels about the way he viewed that world, viewed his world. I don't know that he's visionary, but I also look to, I think we've talked about this, I look to coaches and military leaders who have dealt with crisis, and who also view human capital the way I do. So, Bill Belichick is an example of a guy I really respect, and he inspires me. And he's not looking for the best band players. He's looking for the best bandmates who can make music together. And so that's really what we're trying to do. I'm not looking for the best roofer. I'm not looking for the best estimator. I'm not looking for the best anybody. I'm looking for the best group of people that have a skill set that we can put together that's unbeatable. And so, but I think it's really important as a leader, as an owner of a company, to look back. And when I look back where we were January 2017, January 2018, January 2019, January 2020, I mean, the growth and the changes and the progress we've made in a relatively short period of time is unbelievable. And so I remind people around here who get frustrated or pissed off or whatever, hey, where were we a year ago? Where were we 6 months ago? And look at the progress we've made. Look how much growth, and how much opportunity we've created. And so I tend not to worry about the past, but I think it's when you get in places where you need some inspiration, sometimes your own life is the place.
Yep. Well, Jeremy, before we wind up, tell people how they can get in touch with you if they're interested in following up on this conversation.
Yeah, they can email me, J as in Jeremy, D as in Dickman, at primmroofing.com, at apolloprimm.com, or at apolloroofing.com. We've got all those domains. My direct line is 404-474-3775. But I'm very interested in talking with anybody who's had any issues. We have a great team here. I may not be able to answer the questions, but My CFO has done a great job with the CARES Act and the PPP stuff. You know, we got a service manager who's done a great job. We have a technology guy who's pulled in all the resources for all of our technology. So we've got some people here that can pretty much answer almost any question. And we really are about learning and growing. So we get a lot out of those conversations too. It's not just a one-way conversation. But that's, you know, I welcome anyone and everyone who wants to kind of chat, especially if they're a startup, or especially if they don't have a mentor to help them out.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much, Jeremy. I mean, you're inspiring the way you've kind of navigated through this whole situation where most business owners have looked at it from the glass half empty side, whereas you're seeming to look at it from the more optimistic and recognizing opportunities out there and moving and using it to support the growth you had even before the pandemic. So congrats, and thanks so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Jeff. Anytime. Always willing to help.
All right. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks.